Which parasha we're in, Idan?
Vayetzei.
Vayetzei. In this parasha, there is some kind of how should I say it? Something unclear. What do I mean by something unclear? It seems like Yaakov, his behavior is not something I would expect from a person of his caliber. I mean, you're working for your father-in-law, and you run away, and I mean, okay, I understand a father-in-law is a father-in-law, right? They say it in German or in Yiddish, schwer. Schwer, I think, is like a sword or something like this, hard, so something like this, Schweg, schwer, I don't know, whatever they say, But, still a father-in-law. But you gotta run. You gotta take your wife, your kids, your stuff, and you run. It seems like Lavan was right to be angry at him. And not only that, in the Haggadah of Pesach, we somehow say that Lavan Arami bikesh la'akor et akor, right? He wanted to uproot everything. Where do you find in this psukim that Lavan tried to uproot anything? I mean, it seems to me, as it seems, just the other way around. He was taking care of his family. He was, and not only he didn't want to uproot anything, on the contrary, he was concerned about them. At least it seems like it. So, in order to understand that, what exactly happening there, and why are we saying what we're saying, we need to look at the story of the gap that had occurred between Yaakov and Lavan. And we are able to see that able to identify that after Lavan started to give chase to Yaakov, Lavan goes to Yaakov, and he says to him, that's in Bereshit, Perek
Lamed Bet?
Lamed Aleph. Pasuk?
Yud Zayin.
Lamed Gimel. He says the following: Habanot bnotai, the daughters are my daughters. Ve'habanim banai, and the children are my children. Ve'hatzon tzoni, and the sheep and the cattle is mine. Ve'kol asher ata roeh, and everything that you see, lihu, is mine. ולבנותיי מה אעשה לאלה היום או לבניהם אשר ילדו. What I'm going to do to this children and to my grandkids and to my granddaughters. So from this pasuk, that is a key pasuk to understand the root of this fundamental dispute between Lavan and Yaakov Avinu. The great question is, really, who owns those kids, or who has rights for those kids? Maybe they should have gone to some impartial hearing or something, a family court, but really, who owns those kids? Are they Lavan's kids, or are they actually Yaakov's kids? Lavan claims that everything is his, and according to his shita, to his mindset, the whole entire nation of Israel are basically his offsprings. Even though we say we are the children of Abraham, he says, no, all Am Israel is my offsprings. And because he says, Habanot bunotai, the daughters are my daughters, and your grandkids are my kids. And so on. In other words, he feels that he owns everything. And basically what Yaakov is doing is chasing away from him, or running away from him, and he rightfully so gave chase to him. And so, in other words, he's saying to Yaakov also, listen, buddy, you ain't got nowhere to run. Everything is mine. And according to Lavan, we are not talking here about, now pay attention, Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, which are the children of Yaakov, but rather the children of Lavan. That's what he did. So Lavan, from the very beginning, is the one who takes control over, or tries to take control. Since Yaakov reached the house of Lavan, Lavan makes it clear to him that he's becoming the patriarch. He's the boss, right? And you're going to be under my wing, but I'm your boss. And not only that, I own you. And then you'll find in Bereshit, chapter 29. Verse?
12.
Yudalet.
No.
And it says, where do we see it? It says, Vayomer lo Lavan. And Lavan said to him, Ach atzmi ubasari ata. Well, that is a very interesting statement, and we always say, oh, this guy is nice. The guy is a nice guy. He says to his future son-in-law, you are my flesh and blood. Hey, sounds nice. But it's not. He means something completely different. He says, you are a part of me, even you belong to me. And I'm not referring to the song. And from you, my whole entire family is going to be, but it's my family, not yours. You're just an instrument here. So of course, Yaakov tries to explain to him, and then of course he runs away, but he tries to explain that this is not the case. And he's trying therefore to disconnect from Lavan as much as he can. As much as he can. And that will be in Bereshit, chapter? Lamed. Very good. Verse?
3.
Yudchet.
Lamed Vav. Oh, you're getting better, you're getting better. Because the Pasuk says, Vayasem derech shloshat yamim beino uven Yaakov, veYaakov roe Etzion Lavan anotarot. Therefore, they separated a distance from each other when they were making the deal. By the way, there's something very interesting about this whole deal that Yaakov is making with Lavan. I mean, many people, there were so many rivers of ink had flown down on what Yaakov exactly did. Sometimes it was genetic the things, experiments, miracle, and so on and so forth. I'm going to tell you something completely different, if I may, just as a side note. It's a lesson to all of us. Yaakov Avinu did not make, there wasn't a miracle, he didn't know genetic engineering, none of the above. Yaakov Avinu teaches us here a lesson, is to try to make the best with the tools you have. What did he have? It was in a field. Make the best with what you have. Whatever you have in your toolbox, try to make it the best. Now you don't have to have the newest ratchets and wrenches and so on and so forth, but whatever you got, make the best of it. And everybody has special and very specific tools. The problem is we never want to acknowledge that we can do something with it, and that's why things look the way they look. But that's on a side note. Let's close the parenthesis now. And it says that he says, "Ve'Yaakov roe Etzion Lavan anotarot," and then he's a shepherd for the rest of the sheep of Lavan, and he puts his fence so far from Lavan that it's going to be clear, and this is again a lesson to all of us, when we have bad influence, whether it's going to be neighbors, friends, and I'm going to tell you this, as you could see from this case of Yaakov, even family, if you have a family that is a bad influence or could be potentially be a bad influence of you, as they say, you're going to put some daylight between you and them. Not only daylight, Yaakov put 3 days of a distance. In other words, that a distance of 3 days it's quite of a distance. If we say how much the average they walk today,
40 parasiot.
How much is in miles, Sam? Yeah, you forgot.
15 miles or something?
No.
So they lived about, let's put it this way, call it like 50 miles away from each other. That's quite of a distance. That's his family. That's his family. So don't come and tell me excuses. Well, it's family. I can't do that. No, you. Not only you can, you have to. Look from Yaakov Avinu, and that's when they give you bad, the bad influence on you. And he just wants to also make sure to Lavan that this is not your family. This is my family. And he is very, very careful. Another rule, don't take anything from him. You take something from him, he owes you. He owns you. He owns you. I don't want anything. And we're going to make it very clear. When you start getting stuff from people, you're always on the IOU category. Now, it doesn't make a difference if it's a country or it's an individual. One side gives to the other, you're going to pay for it. You're going to listen to me, you're going to pay for it. That's why it has to be, when I'm saying, if you want to make partnership, first of all, don't. Run it by yourself. If you can run by yourself, partnership has to be 50-50 in all aspects. In efforts also. You can't do that, don't have a partnership. Go work somewhere else or go work for yourself. So Yaakov makes it he understands. Yaakov knows what he's doing. It's not just like some kind of a Jackie from around the block. That's Yaakov Avinu we're talking about here. He knew it very well. And so therefore the question is, going back to what we said before, what is the difference between Yaakov and the rest of our hatred, or people that hate us? I mean, we all know that Paro was a very crooked guy. I mean, he wanted to kill every Jewish boy, drown them in the Nile. And we say Lavan was worse than Paro. שלא ביקש פרעה אלא את הבנים, את הזכרים, ולבן ביקש לעקור את הכל. He wanted to uproot everything. בנות, כל היום אתה בבנות. Lavan, we say, ביקש לעקור את הכל. In other words, to turn everybody to become the children of Lavan. Not like Esav. Esav at least went to battle. All right, he went to battle. He wanted to make he basically wanted to erase the notion or the idea of what is so-called Bnei Israel. That's why we say, Mr. Lavan, you are not so good. And not like Paro, we said, that made a decree on the male, but with a smile and with niceness. It was nice. I'm your friend. You want a flesh on my body. Mikasa to casa, mikasa, mikasa to casa, mikasa. To family, mi family, ma familia, so on, akol sheli. Right? But very nice. It's a very nice guy. And he tried to... Okay, the word Lavan in Hebrew, first of all, means white. But also, Lavan is also the letters of Naval. What's a Naval?
Running?
Naval is what you would say, man, this guy is a bastard. Wicked. Guy is bad. So by smiling, he tried to cover up the wickedness of his things. It's not left pushes away and right brings it closer. He's smiling at you and he stabs you in the back. It's like, for example, a country, without mentioning names, of course, would say, we got to move our embassy to Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, but we're also going to open a consulate in Jerusalem to be partners in the overall lie of the Palestinian nation because we care about them as well. You know what? Don't do me favors. I want to see if Israel would have said something like this. We want to open an embassy in Mexico, for Mexico and Texas. Would like to see that happen. So you got to be very careful from people like that, who tells you, man, I love those people. Oh, you're so nice. You are tzaddik. You're working so hard. You're so smart. And they take advantage of you on they'll give you superlatives. They will make you feel $1 million. They would even give you a wife. You want a wife? I'll give you 2. Stay away from people like this. That with their smiles, they'll destroy you. With their smiles, they'll just, look at his, Mr. Handsome. How you doing, Mr. Z? Baruch Tamid Hashem. So, Yaakov stands stands his ground, and he kind of hammers it down to make sure that everybody knows that this is my family, and we're going to disconnect ourselves from the world of sheker, from the world of lie. So after Yaakov runs away from Lavan and Lavan chases after him, there's a very, very description of Yaakov, the way he interacts with his children. And Yaakov says 3 times to his children, he doesn't call them my children, he calls them brothers. It says like this in Bereshit Perek,
Lamed Aleph.
Lamed Aleph, Psukim,
Bet.
15.
Lamed Zayin to Nun Dalet. Go do your homework. I see you do Shtayim Mikra, Echad Lishon. It says, Simko neged achai ve'achecha ve'yochichu ben shnenu, right? Do so in between, right? My brothers and your brothers. And then it says, Vayomer Yaakov le'echav liktu avanim, gather stones, Echav to his brothers were with him. But who was his brother? Esav. So that's his children. Vayikra le'echav le'echol lachem. Rashi explains le'echav hem banav. That's very interesting. So it seems like the idea behind what Yaakov was doing, was saying out loud, is to make it clear that his children to him are like his brothers, in order to emphasize to his father-in-law that we're not talking here about anything that you have to do with them. They are my brothers. They are like my brothers. In other words, you don't have a part with my brothers. In other words, you don't have a part in my children. They're nothing to do with you. They have nothing to do with you. And in other words, it's a completely different family. And Yaakov therefore takes a big stone, and he says what it's like. I mean, what he could say in utmost clarity, that he's completely disconnected from the house of Lavan, and not only, not for nothing, he calls them Matzeva Yigar Sahaduta. In other words, Yigar Sahaduta, which is in Aramaic, not in Hebrew. And Yaakov, right? Yaakov koreh la matzeva, he calls the matzeva Gal'ed. 2 different things. Why? Lavan is Arami. Lavan is Arami. So he called this thing in Aramaic. Yaakov says, no, Motek Shali, my language is not your language. I'm going to call this in Hebrew, Gal'ed. And I'm going to not, by calling it, and that's very important to all of you. Very important to all of you. To understand the importance of your language. There's so many things that you can read wrong, even in plain good old English translation, let's say for example of the Bible, that you could become almost a heretic from reading the Bible the wrong way. It's like I would read the difference if I would read, let's say, Shakespeare in a translation to Japanese rather than straightforward English. Or as great as it is to read Tolstoy translated into English. You must learn Hebrew. You must learn Hebrew and you must put an effort to it. The problem that we have now is, especially in America, we abandoned Hebrew. English is cooler. But we abandoned Hebrew. Together with that, we abandoned our identity. So, when he does that, together with the concept that the children are not your children, they're like brothers, in other words, a different family, he says these are not the children of Lavan, the Bnei Yaakov and the Bnei Israel. That's basically what he's saying. Okay, so we're talking about this monument that they put in. But really, who put this monument? So we could see that phenomena goes on when Yaakov puts the monument. Lavan claims that he did it. He has a sense of revisionist history. Believe me, I noticed this many times myself. Revisionist history. You go in, you bust your chops, you work hard, you pour your kishes on it. Somebody else comes and says, oh, I did it. You weren't a part of that. All the time. Whether it was in business, whether it was in Torah, it's always going to be something. Guys, I mean, with all due respect, I'm going to tell you that. Jews or not Jews, let's admit it. We do have a part of Lavan. And we need to learn how to deal with this. That's what I'm trying to teach you today. I've seen it. So Lavan says, I put the matzevah. Yaakov says, what are you talking about? I did it myself, and my children did it like this. You didn't do anything. That's another symptom of a person you should stay away from. Or if it wasn't for me, buddy, you wouldn't be here. No, how about the other way around? So we have among us people with those qualities of Lavan. I'm giving you as much as I can, to the best of my very limited ability, some kind of tools to identify who are those people in which you should stay away from. Now they could wear a kippah the size of a crock pot on their head. That doesn't mean that Lavan inside of them is not coming up to the surface. You need to stay out. Again, even if it's your family, even if it's your friend, even if it's your boss, even if it's who knows what. Got to stay away. So, and how do I know that? Because it says in Bereshit Lamed Aleph Pasuk Nun Aleph. It says, Vayomer Lavan veYaakov, and Lavan says to Yaakov, Hine Hagal Hazeh, this is the monument, Asher Yariti Beini Uvencha. I did it. So why is Lavan claiming that he put this, right? It's very simple. Because if they all belong to him, so basically he was the one who put it together. Yadcha keyadi, your hand is like my hand, your mouth is like my mouth. So when you speak, it's me. When you do something, it's like I did it. Believe me, guys, maybe I really hope that right now you have some light bulbs going into your head. You can say, yeah, I remember this. Yes, happened to me today. I'm sure it did.
Every day.
Huh?
Every day.
Every day, you're right. So, at the end of this meeting, Lavan says, Elokei Avraham v'nechor ishpetu beni u'bencha. The gods of Abraham and Nahor will make the judgment between the two of us. In other words, he's saying, we are all the children of Nahor, we are one family. Again, you all belong to me, but Yaakov makes him swear what is called Bepachad Aviv Yitzchak. Says in the sake of what my father has yirah for, which is Elokei Avraham, right, to teach you, Mr. Lavan, you have nothing to do with me, nor with my children, nor with my God. We are a separate entity. I love this guy Yaakov. Let me tell you. He seems like to us like Yaakov. Yosef Alim. He sits like this. This guy He's a tier 1 operator, let me tell you that. He is the best. He's amazing. Yaakov Avinu is amazing. He doesn't need uniform and medals. He just wears a t-shirt, wears a pair of working boots, maybe some Blundstones or some, shoes like that. But he, you know what I'm saying, whatever he does, he kicks it very hard. He doesn't need all this fur hats and regillas to fight the war of Am Yisrael. He's out there. He's tier 1. So Lavan says to the whole entire story with Yaakov, right? He sounds like a very reliable person, because Lavan never openly lies. He doesn't lie out in the open. He explains everything. He has he comes up with every excuse in the book. Anything in the book. If you have a question about what he did, he has an answer for that. Again, I'm sure you met plenty of Lavans in your life. And by the way, including also switching Leah with Rachel. That also he has a teirutz. And he says, listen, I'm a good and decent and respectful man in my community. But Yaakov said to him, listen, buddy, you're a liar. Yaakov calls him a liar. He says, why? Vatachlef et maskulti. He gives it to Kecha. He said, you switch my reward. You switch. In other words, you're lying. Yaakov is not afraid. Guys, it's another thing you should learn from Yaakov Avinu. You see something wrong, open your mouth. Don't be a wimp. Open your mouth. And that's true for everything. Open your mouth. You don't open your mouth, people will run you over. They'll turn you into a doormat. Stand on what you know is right. Make sure you're right. But if you know it's right, open your mouth. And it says, not only it said you did it like tenfold. You switched my reward. You stole from me. You always claim that you are tzaddik, but I know that you are a liar. And I'm not going to continue with you. I'm breaking from you. I'm going home. Now, we know, again, side notes, little star or whatever, hashtag, whatever you want. What's this? Why do we want everything from Lavan? Okay, so he did what he did. No, yalla ta'azov, leave me alone. What's the problem with Lavan? We know that Yaakov and his sons went down to not to Georgia. They went down to Egypt. Why they went down to Egypt? Because Yosef was in Egypt, right? Yosef was in Egypt. Why? Because his brothers sold him to the Egyptians. Why did they sell him to the Egyptians? Because they hated him. And they hated him because his father preferred him on them. He was the beloved child. He was the piano prodigy. He loved them. And why did he prefer him? Because Yosef was Ben Skunim. He was his beloved baby boy. And why was he Ben Skunim? Why was the last boy? Because he was born late or later than his own brothers. And why was he born later than his brothers? Because Lavan gave Yaakov, in a cheating way, Leah over Rachel. If he would have given him Rachel at the time the way he had promised, Yosef would have born first, and it would not have been Ben Skunim, but rather it will be the Bechor, the firstborn. And if it was the Bechor, his brother would not be jealous at him. And if the brothers would not have been jealous at him, they would not sell him. They would not sell him, they would not go to Egypt, and they would not become avadim, they would not become slaves. And if they would not have become slaves, Paro would not have killed them. So who is to blame in this whole chain? Lavan. And that's why Lavan is worse than Paro. Lavan wants to, in any way he can, from the very beginning, he wanted to gain control and to destroy the concept of Am Yisrael. He wanted to make everything his, And that was because of his cultural heritage. Yaakov stopped this completely, and he did so, as we saw, in a very smart and distinctive way. You might say that Lavan was an ideologist. You might say he was an ideologist, and his fight with Yaakov and all the stuff in between was probably to, as we said before, to make sure that Am Yisrael would not come, to prevent the birth of the nation of Am Yisrael. And he didn't want this holy nation to be created according to the guidelines in which they were supposed to be, which was given to us by Avraham Avinu. And that's a secret. By Avraham Avinu, which is, we said in Masechet Avot, if you see a person who is kind, has mercy, and so on and so forth, that's a son of Avraham Avinu. The other way around, then, but Banav shall, and he says, I'm sorry, he doesn't say sons, he says the Talmidei Avraham Avinu. In other words, we need to learn from Avraham Avinu, not just refer to him as a father, we need to learn from his ways. So, Yaakov, and he tried to do whatever he can, that he would prevent him to marry his main column of the house, Akeret Abayit. In Hebrew, in modern Hebrew, the term a housewife, Akeret Bayit, is not the same thing. A housewife means I have a house, a wife in the house, and I have a wife in the street, and I have a wife in Virginia. In Hebrew, the concept of a housewife, it's called in Hebrew Akeret Abayit. Akeret Abayit, that she's the ikar. The woman in Judaism, is the main and only column of the house. She's the big post of the house. He didn't want it. He wanted to have somebody else because he knew what would have come up from Yaakov and Rachel. So I'm going to prevent this from happening, and that's what he did. And because of that, Yaakov Avinu will be busy all the time doing Shlom Bayit. I'm going to give him a lot of work to do. So I'm going to schlep him all the way up to the mountains. Maybe they could make a reality show of Yaakov Avinu, mountain man, Yaakov Avinu man, and so on and so forth. And I'll take your salary. I won't pay you on time. I'll pay you 4 months later. We've been to all these things, right? But there's something else to learn. The Zohar calls Lavan Ha'arami, Lavan, Lamed Bet Nun, Ha'arami, Hey, Aleph, Mem, Resh, Yud, Ha'arami. The Zohar calls him Lavan Haramai. Ha'arami is Aramite. The same letters as Ramai means a crook. Now, not only it was Lavan Haramai, but also Naval Haramai. So in other words, Lavan, by his essence, the Zohar says, the guy was not just an ideologist. The guy was to his core a wicked man. He was a crook and a wicked man. Naval Haramai, lo Lavan Ha'arami. So how does a guy like this come to you? Comes to you this way. He'll maybe put a kippah on his head. Maybe he will tell you his grandfather was a big tzaddik. Maybe this, maybe that. Tzipurei Savta. The bottom line, the guy is a crook from his core. Even his ideology is crooked. Because all he liked was money. From the very beginning we know all he wanted is money. So you didn't give me money? I don't care, buddy, that you were robbed by Eliphaz now. And you were left with nothing. I don't care about it. You didn't give me money. I'm going to make sure you're going to suffer for it. You're going to pay for it. And whatever good is going to come from it, you're not going to have it. And I'm going to make sure it's not going to happen. I own you. And Yaakov said, buddy, nobody owns me. Nobody owns me. I'm a servant of Hashem. And you too. Don't forget, we carry some of this DNA inside of us. How do we overcome this? you go to the Bet Medrash of Avraham Avinu. You learn about kindness. You learn about mercy. You care about those who nobody cares about. You welcome people. You're nice. Right? From the students of Aaron. Magdim shalom lechol adam. Anybody you see in the street, say, how you doing? How are you? I have a new friend. My Federal Express guy. My new friend. Because it's cold now. And every time I said, listen, buddy, thank you. I always said thank you. I said, stay warm. I said, thanks, man. I appreciate it. My best friend. He was sweating. I said, stay dry. Learn from Aaron. Learn from Avraham. If you're not going to do that, that Lavan inside of you is going to come up. And when the Lavan comes out, that's, Rabotai, the destruction of Am Yisrael. The destruction of Am Yisrael comes from within when we forget to be the students of Avraham, the students of Aaron. We forgot the path of Avraham Avinu because he wants to put Nechor. Lavan comes up. Lavan comes out also from the outside. Be nice, little guy. Be nice, little guy. Nice boy. Pa! Gives you like this. That's what happens. You thought you have everything, you have nothing. That's Lavan. You want something? Be your own boss. Take responsibility. Have an initiative. Stay loyal to who you are. You are a son of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And we need to remember that. So when you bring a korban, what do we say? Arami. Right? We need to remember that. When we do an avarah, we do something, it's only because of the Lavan in us is coming out. L'al tikra shmo Lavan, ela kra shmo Naval. And a person like this is not going to come to you b'derech yosher, ela b'derech remiyah, in a cheating and a deceiving way. Rabotai, this is a lot of work to do and a lot to think of. And next time you go out to the streets, you remember what I told you. I gave you now a tool how to identify those people you should stay away with. And not only how to identify, I also taught you how to win it and how to deal with it. By all means, never be afraid. Don't appease. Don't be afraid. Stay loyal to the truth. And stay loyal to the derech of Am Yisrael. B'derech Yisrael Sabah. Shabbat Shalom.